We are pleased to welcome you all to the JCAS 21 hosted by JCI. Our VOMC today, I'm Okubo with Renewable Energy Institute. The COP26 of UNFCCC has been postponed for a year, but at the end of this month it will be held in the UK. Japan will submit new GHG reduction targets anew. Today's event has been attracting a lot of attention. More than 2,500 people have registered. Amid the climate crisis, how Japanese actors are taking actions. What is Japan expected to do? We would like to listen to those active at the forefront. In opening, I would like to invite Dr. Sueyoshi Takejiro, JCI representative, to deliver his opening remarks.
Thank you for the introduction. Very nice to see you all who are all joining JCAS 2021. Now the JCI member finally has reached 671. When it was launched in July 2018, we started 105 members, which means that within the short term of 3 years, the number of members has increased sixfold. All this is because of the passionate activities of the members themselves and because of all your kind support for JCI. I express my deepest gratitude. There is no time to lose to deal with the climate crisis. On the 11th, WHO issued a new report, and this is what they mentioned. Climate change is the single biggest health threat facing humanity. Climate change is single biggest health threat facing humanity. That is how it positioned. So extreme weather causes abnormal heat, storms, floods, destruction of food systems, zoonosis, infection, or mental illnesses. WHO says that all these are a threat and impacting the lives and health of so many people. And in fact, no one is safe, immune from these risks. This is a life or death matter for the humankind, imminent, right in front of us. So regarding this abnormal situation of the global environment, other countries have now resolved with determination to tackle global warming straightforward. Towards the net zero goal by 2050, they have now become very serious in eradicating CO2 emission sources. At the same time, new businesses that do not emit CO2 is expanding. The 21st century business power balance. It was a vacuum, and Japan stopped thinking, so Japan simply has to act and catch up. This is the only chance for Japan to act and catch up. And in this Japan, former Prime Minister Suga declared that Japan will go carbon neutral by 2050 and that the GHG emission by 2030 will be down by 46% compared to 2013. And Japan will try to reach 50% reduction despite this announcement. But the soon to be finalized sixth basic energy plan is not in alignment with what the former Prime Minister said. Deeply regrettable. In order to change the situation, we sent out a comment to the government of Japan as of September 24. In order to realize halving emission by 2030 and to achieve net zero by 2050, we demanded that the policies be changed and plans and strategies commensurate with these ideas be made. This was sent under the name of myself. 2 weeks after that, the new Prime Minister Kishida-san made a policy speech at the joint session of the Japanese Parliament. And the second policy, he said, is in order to realize new capitalism, in order to prepare for global crises, including climate change, In order to realize carbon neutral by 2050, the government will decide a clean energy strategy that should lead to growth and that will be strongly promoted. Prime Minister Kishida went on to talk about the third policy, which is the foreign and security policies to protect the Japanese population and to tackle global challenges to contribute to humankind, and will lead the international community and will raise the presence of Japan in order to resolve the difficult issues, including climate change. This is a commitment made to the world and to the people. In a rare case in policy speeches by Japanese prime ministers, he spent considerable time on the climate matter, which is very good, and there was high expectation. But the point is whether it would be placed into action, because on the very day, on October 8th, the Human Rights Council in Geneva adopted a resolution saying that safe, clean, and healthy sustainable environment constitutes human right. Out of the 47 members of HRC, 43 countries voted in favor, including UK, Germany, Italy. None was against. However, there were 4 abstentions, including Japan, Russia, China, India, for unknown reason. In Europe, the climate issue is now considered to be human rights matters, and despite the situation, Japan joined 3 other countries to abstain. Very deeply regrettable. The prelude to COP26, there was the international conference in Milan. Greta Thunberg, who appeared in Youth for Climate, she said, blah, blah, blah. 30 years of blah, 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 blah. Walk the talk. That was what she repeated. The young generation are concerned about their own futures. They are asking not for words, but for impactful actions. So the adult, we have to listen more to the younger generation who will be the leader in the near future. Boris Johnson, who spoke at UNGA, said that it's time for humanity to grow up. Prime Minister Johnson called the humankind just adolescent, immature, and he warned all the people across the world that we must be more mature. That was a profound, very moving sermon. I would like to fully listen and acknowledge. And Boris Johnson, he's going to be the host at the Glasgow COP26 summit. Mr. Johnson said the summit is going to be the turning point for humanity and appeal to the world about the historical importance. Are we going to turn left or turning right? For the future of humanity, whether we can make a wise, ethical, and correct selection, it is up to each and every one of us. So at this turning point, we should not take the wrong turn. In order to make the correct decision, JCI wishes to work with all the members, share the sense of crisis with the world, and in order to make Japan that is commensurate with the other countries of the world and that we do not need to be shameful, we will strongly appeal to the government of Japan. Member-to-member cooperation will be further promoted. We will also work harder on international collaboration. Each and every person may only have a little power, but many people coming together will create a big power. Lastly, I would like to thank UN Special Envoy Bloomberg and everybody else from Japan and abroad for joining this program. May I conclude my greetings with my wish that today's JCAS 2021 will be a contribution to all your activities. Stay safe. Thank you.
Sueyoshi-san, thank you. First, I'd like to share with you 3 messages from overseas. The first one is by Ambassador Michael Bloomberg, UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for Climate Ambition Solutions, and founder of Bloomberg Philanthropies and Bloomberg 108th Mayor of New York City. He has been supporting the American local governments and corporate activities in America is exiting coal. The second is Ambassador Ken O'Flaherty from the UK, COP26, and UK Foreign Office, the COP26 Regional Ambassador. The third is the Ambassador Gonzalo Munoz, United Nations High-Level Climate Champion. You may not be familiar with the word, but when COP21 was adopted, a Paris Agreement was adopted, as the leaders to build momentum globally, the companies and investors, he's been appointed by the United Nations. You can choose the language in listening to the video, the globe icon, the interpretation. You can switch English or the United States. Please enter 3 messages in a row.
I'm glad to speak with you today. In a few weeks, the world will come together for the UN's climate conference in Glasgow. It's a reminder of how important collaboration is to winning the fight against climate change. In both Japan and the US, businesses and local leaders are helping to lead the way. For example, the Japan Climate Initiative has grown more than 6-fold since 2018, and it continues working to drive down carbon emissions as quickly as possible. Setting ambitious goals for 2050 is important, but taking action now is the real key to making progress. At Bloomberg Philanthropies, we're doing our part. We've helped retire more than 65% of all coal plants in the United States and half the coal plants in Europe as well. We've also brought that work to Japan, where phasing out coal and strengthening renewables are critical to reaching the country's climate goals. And as Global Ambassador of the UN's Race to Zero campaign, I've joined with cities, businesses, and organizations from around the world to work towards net zero emissions. So thank you for everything you're doing. By working together, we can create a healthier, stronger, more sustainable world.
Hello everyone, I'm Ken O'Flaherty, COP26 Regional Ambassador to Asia Pacific and South Asia, and I'd like to thank the Japan Climate Initiative for this opportunity to give a message at the Japan Climate Action Summit 2021. The UK will be hosting COP26 in Glasgow in less than 3 weeks' time, and August's IPCC report shows that Glasgow may be our last chance to keep the 1.5 degrees Celsius target alive and limit global temperature rises to that level. That's why COP26 is the most important international climate meeting of the decade. Every nation, every company, every investor, every city and every region needs to move with conviction to turn their commitments to tackle climate change into action, to keep the prospect of preventing global temperatures rising above 1.5 degrees Celsius alive. And we have to get this right for our generation and for future generations. By taking action together at COP26, we can make our recovery from COVID-19 one that builds a better future, one with green jobs, cleaner air, and increasing prosperity without harming the planet. And that's why we have set clear goals at COP26 on how we all need to be committed to accelerating the transition from coal to clean power, halting deforestation, tackling methane emissions, and accelerating the shift to zero-emission vehicles. And underpinning this is finance. So it's vital that developed countries step up their commitments to meet the $100 billion goal. The UK is encouraged by Japan's commitment to net zero by 2050 and also enhancing its 2030 emissions reduction target to 46 to 50%, and I'm looking forward to seeing Japan formally submit its NDC and long-term strategy to the UN ahead of COP26. I also welcome Japan's commitment to end unabated overseas coal financing within this year and its 6.5 trillion yen climate finance commitment for years 2021 to 2025. I believe these were instrumental in encouraging increased commitments from other countries in recent months. And we all have welcomed China's announcement on ending new coal plant construction overseas. But we do need to take a step further in order to consign coal to history. The UK, as COP26 presidency, would like to see Japan set a clear date to end domestic coal use of 2030 or soon thereafter. And we'd like to see on a more regional level, more local governments in Japan being active on this agenda by joining the Powering Past Coal Alliance initiative, which Kyoto City has joined as the first ever Japanese member this March. In the UK, we have taken ambitious strides in decarbonising our energy sector. Back in 2012, 40% of UK electricity came from coal. But this year, the figure is less than 2%, and we won't be using any coal to generate electricity by October 2024. Over the same period, we have boosted our offshore wind deployment. The UK is now leading the world in offshore wind power, with more capacity installed than any other country worldwide. And we have proven that the rapid transition from coal to clean energy is achievable. And we're keen to collaborate with Japan on this. I see a real opportunity to further deepen UK-Japanese cooperation in the low-carbon transition across innovation, jobs and growth. I believe the UK and Japan can help each other and also third countries reach net zero together by offering clean and green solutions. With top experts from Japan's non-state actor community gathered here today, I hope this important and timely event by JCI can explore in depth the pathway on how Japan can achieve net zero. Japan is an incredibly important ally in our fight against climate change, and we look forward to working with you more closely during and after COP26. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. It's fantastic to be taking part in this wonderful Japan Climate Action Summit 2021. We all know very well how pivotal this COP26 conference is, and we know that science could not be clearer about what is happening to the planet, and that the window of opportunity we have to pivot our path back towards a safer trajectory is unfortunately closing. So leaders across the global economy need to step up urgently and put us on the path to halving global emissions by 2030. Every actor must take immediate action if the world is to keep global average temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We are definitely all in this together. So in the Race to Zero campaign, we have seen tremendous growth despite the pandemic. Since Race to Zero launch back in June last year, our partner initiatives have together brought into the campaign over 6,200 members from across 110 countries. We started with less than 1,000 business. We're now up to 4,475. We started with a handful of investors. We now have over 250 financial institutions representing almost 90 trillion in asset under management. We have seen the number of cities in the campaign rocket to over 800. In total, in the last 12 months, and the 12 months alone, we have almost double in number of members, with well over 1,500 new members joining in only the last 3 months. We must celebrate this, and we have to recognize the tremendous effort of our partner initiatives in making this happen, bringing all these actors from across the real economy to commit to robust net zero and supporting them to take action together towards a halving of global emissions by 2030. It has been really wonderful to see many of the JCI Race to Zero Circle members contributing to this growth. As one of the most important and influential industrialized countries and a major emitter within the G20, Japan has a special responsibility and a massive opportunity to help drive the necessary transition to a zero carbon climate resilient global economy by 2050 at the very latest. And in that sense, we have seen great momentum among Japanese companies, investors, cities, and prefectures over the last 12 months following Prime Minister Suga's historical commitment to carbon neutrality by 2050. Many of these actors have already or are in the process of joining our Race to Zero, with now over 130 Japanese entities in the race. So in order to continue this unprecedented momentum, it is important that Japanese non-state actors support the Japanese government in quickly formalizing its new target to reduce emissions by 46 to 50% by 2030. As part of that transition, Japan needs to grapple with its ongoing resilience on coal as part of the energy mix, phase out coal power by 2030 at the latest, as recommended by the United Nations Secretary General, the International Energy Agency, and many others. We really hope that the participation of more Japanese non-state actors in Race to Zero and not just companies and local governments, will accelerate towards COP26. The gathering of non-state actors will definitely further move Japan as a whole to decarbonization and also contribute to the decarbonization of the world. As we approach COP in Glasgow, it is increasingly clear where stakeholders are looking to judge success. And JCI members can proudly take responsibility to contribute to this success we need to see. We need to see, of course, near-term commitments with a focus on what's needed by 2030. We need to succeed in achieving more of the breakthrough actions needed in every sector on the path to net zero, with clear evidence on near-term action from critical numbers of real economy actors. We need, of course, to mobilize the capital needed, not just the 100 billion that are promised by governments, but also the trillions needed to transform developing countries and emerging as well as advanced economies. And we need fossil fuels phase out with a focus on whether the world is serious about consigning coal to history, and stakeholders we know are looking for evidence that finance is ready to support this and is already doing it. Of course, we need the rules and the regulation and the architecture in place to deliver the action needed from states and non-state actors. And also, we need not just to be focused on mitigation and reducing the emissions, but ensuring there is a proper plan in place to build climate resilience for 4 billion of the most vulnerable. Vulnerable countries and communities have unique needs, and COP26 needs to be seen as a global moment of solidarity that brings all voices together. These ideas of success will only be possible through radical collaboration across non-state actors and national governments. We need all of society approach to make this possible. So I urge you all to join the Race to Zero through the JCI Race to Zero Circle as soon as you can and drive the change we need to see. Thank you very much.
We received messages from various viewpoints. All three of you actually mentioned early phase out of coal thermal power. Also, the switch to renewable energy should also be accelerated, by doing so reducing half the emissions by 2030, and in order to achieve net zero emissions globally, extend necessary support to developing countries. I think that perhaps this is how I felt, that as Japan we were expected to move.